February 16th, 2015. This is PSN News. Tonight we'll have the latest on the Chapel Hill killings.
We'll also have an interview with THON Executive Director Megan Renaut coming up on PSN News. Public outrage continues to grow as people around the world mourn the death of 3 Muslim students in North Carolina. Craig Hicks was indicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder today after shooting the 3 Chapel Hill students on Tuesday. Over 5,000 people attended last week's funeral for Dean Shady Barakat, Yusar Mohammed, and Razan Mohammed. A district prosecutor said there was no evidence that the victims had been targeted for their religion. According to law enforcement officials, the incident took place in response to a dispute over a parking spot. Prominent Muslim leaders from around the world are criticizing Barack Obama for his silence over what they believe to be a hate crime.
An elderly Indian man is partially paralyzed after an encounter with an officer in Madison, Alabama last week. The Washington Post reports Sharish Bhai Patel, age 57, was approached by the police as he was walking through his neighborhood on February 6th. A neighbor called the police, telling them that a man who was later identified as Patel looked suspicious. Minutes after the call, the officer on scene put Patel face down on the ground with a severe neck injury. Patel's lawyer filed a lawsuit against the Madison Police Department, alleging his constitutional civil rights were violated. The FBI is investigating the situation. As of now, the officer is under arrest, and his police chief is proposing that he be fired. A spokesperson for India's Ministry of External Affairs said Friday he was expressed his concern to tell the U.S. Embassy and will be talking to American officials.
Congress continues to deliberate following President Obama's request last Wednesday to formally authorize use of military force in the war against ISIS. The president told the media the bill's core objective is to destroy the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. The proposed joint resolution includes authority for a systematic and sustained campaign of airstrikes, support and training for forces on the ground, and humanitarian assistance. The bill does not call for the deployment of ground troops in the region and would limit the president's authority to wage a military campaign against ISIS to 3 years. The draft would formally authorize the already 6-month-old U.S. military effort against ISIS.
On Tuesday, the Obama administration confirmed that American hostage Kayla Mueller has died. CNN reports the Northern Arizona University graduate traveled to the Turkish-Syrian border in December of 2012. She was with the Danish Refugee Council and a human rights group that supports Syrian refugees. In August 2013, ISIS took Mueller captive when she was leaving a hospital in Aleppo, Syria. ISIS claims Mueller was killed in a Jordanian airstrike while held captive. Mueller committed her time to volunteering with homeless women, HIV patients, and victims of war. There have been reports that during captivity, Mueller had been given to an ISIS fighter as a sort of a bribe, but these have yet to be confirmed.
Americans are mourning the loss of 2 well-known journalists who died last week. Media reporter for the New York Times, David Carr, collapsed in his office on Thursday. The autopsy report revealed that lung cancer and heart disease contributed to his death. Carr is well known for writing a memoir entitled Night of the Gun about his struggle with cocaine addiction and his first bout with cancer. The day before Carr collapsed, 60 Minutes correspondent Bob Simon died in a car accident. The New York City medical examiner said that Simon was not wearing a seatbelt and was thrown to the front of the car in the crash. Simon covered numerous overseas events for CBS since the 1960s.
The state college community is recovering from the sudden loss of one of the borough's finest. We'll have more on that coming up.
On Wednesday, State Senator Jake Corman released all the deposition testimonies and documents that he had collected during his multi-year lawsuit against the NCAA. Last month, Corman and the NCAA reached a resolution in the lawsuit that repealed the sanctions against Penn State. Anyone can now view almost 5,000 pages worth of testimonies from the lawsuit on Corman's website. Testimonies include NCAA President Mark Emmert, former Penn State President Rodney Erickson, and 14 others related to the case. Corman now requests that the association begin an internal review of their policies and procedures. He has sent the documents to Congress and the NCAA's executive committees in hopes of an investigation, and says he believes it would result in Emmerich being removed from his position.
On Wednesday, a Quinnipiac University poll said that 59% of Pennsylvania residents support the return of the Joe Paterno statue to a prominent location. Onward State reports that the poll also showed that 25% of residents were against the statue's return, while 16% did not know how they felt or had no opinion. The results were largely the same across all age groups and genders. However, the largest group of supporters were those 55 years of age or older. As of now, there are no plans for returning the statue, although a few Board of Trustee members have publicly supported doing so.
Penn State football is celebrating thanks to a big decision from the Big Ten last Wednesday. Penn State Athletics said via press release that the Conference and Council of Presidents and Chancellors decided that Penn State will get its share of Big Ten bowl game revenues back to help support Penn State's 31 teams. The money received from the Big Ten bowl games was the highest amount ever generated. USA Today reported that each Big Ten school received about $4.7 million, and this amount is expected to make dramatic increases over the next few years. The money generated could increase by about $2 to $3 million in the 2016-2017 season.
The Huffington Post reports that the Pennsylvania governor, Tom Wolf, has put a hold on the state's death penalty. According to Wolf, this hold will remain until he has reviewed a 2011 Pennsylvania report by the Task Force and Advisory Commission on Capital Punishment. Wolf stated that this decision is based on a system that is flawed and has been proven to be a cycle of ineffective and unjust court methods. Wolf's announcement put on hold the execution of convicted murderer Terrence Williams, scheduled for March 4th. Williams would have been the first person executed in Pennsylvania since 1999, and Pennsylvania currently has 186 inmates on death row.
Family and friends of a State College police officer mourn his death after burying him Friday. The Daily Collegian reports that the State College Police Department commemorated Officer Robert Bradley at his funeral with a commander's call and flag presentation. The 43-year-old died Monday in his home after suffering a stroke. Police Chief Thomas King says that he didn't notice anything unusual when he saw Bradley the morning of his death. After hearing the news, the Boalsburg Volunteer Fire Company started a GoFundMe campaign and has since raised nearly $10,000. Bradley served in the police force for 19 years. He leaves behind a wife and 4 children.
Penn Staters took a glimpse into the Muslim world last week. Here's Yusuf Saba with the story.
Penn State's Muslim Student Association is organizing an event to showcase the diverse cuisines of the Muslim world. A Taste of the Muslim World has around 10 Muslim countries represented. Vice President of MSA Shiva Darian shares why she thinks this event is valuable.
A lot of people have a specific perception of who Muslims are, and I think that this event truly showcased that the Muslim community is much more diverse than people think. People assume that Muslims are Arabs, and we honestly only had 3 Arab groups at this event. The other 7 countries that were represented were all non-Arab.
The event has several booths with representatives from different Muslim countries teaching visitors about their food and culture. President of MSA, Hamza Faid, tells us what she believes MSA's role is in the Penn State community.
It's supposed to play a role in the greater context of Penn State in terms of raising awareness about Muslims in America in general, and to bring sort of light to that we're not, we're not all behind guns or things like that.
Studies show that Muslims are discriminated against to a large degree in the United States. Penn State engineering student from Saudi Arabia, Abdulaziz Al-Haqbani, describes a situation in which he felt discriminated against.
Walking with my mother in the neighborhood, and she wears hijab. And we were passing by a playground where there are 5 and 6-year-olds playing basketball. And I've heard them screaming when we passed by, "Hey, terrorists, terrorists, look at them." And they were pointing at us.
Penn State's Muslim Student Association continues to try to bridge the gap between Muslims and the rest of the Penn State community. Reporting from State College, I'm Yusuf Saba.
Penn State students are rethinking community dynamics following Saturday's 2nd annual State of the State Conference that left Alumni Hall packed. The Daily Collegian reports much of the event focused on the issue of sexual misconduct at Penn State. Each speaker stressed the importance of basic communication in combating the issue. The discussion also included mental health. Penn State's Commonwealth campuses were also a part of the discussion, and touched on transitioning and the student experience. The student engagement section also focused on using education to springboard into worldly involvement.
We'll be right back with a special THON interview. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Alexandria Brown, and I'm joined with THON 2015 Executive Director Megan Renaut. Megan, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, thanks so much for having me.
Let's start with an easy question, one that we're all dying to know. Can you tell me a little bit about how you first got involved with THON?
Of course. So I knew a little bit about THON before I came here. Some of my family members were involved, and I was involved in Mini-THON, supporting 4 Diamonds as a kid. So when I came to Penn State, I knew I wanted to be involved in THON as soon as I got here. So I applied to be a captain, and I was chosen as a hospitality captain my freshman year, which was really exciting because I got to work with food and beverage donors in the community. So I got to see a new side of THON that I hadn't really thought of existing before. So that was really cool to get to build those relationships between those donors and THON. And then the next year I was involved with the Public Relations Committee as a media relations captain, which I got to spread the word of THON to people who have never heard of it before, which was really exciting for me. So last year I was the hospitality director, and so I got to lead a group of 20 hospitality captains and work as a member of the executive committee, which was a huge broadening perspective. Excuse me. My perspective was so broad, and being able to see all of the different sides of THON, it was really exciting.
It really sounds like you've worked in basically every aspect of THON and seen everything from a new perspective every year. That's wonderful. What's been your favorite part, I guess, throughout your years involved?
I think my favorite part that has spanned across all of the different roles that I've had is building relationships with members of the THON community. So, when I worked in hospitality, I got to bring donors in and show them our events where we're serving their food and their drinks, and they light up at seeing all the 4 Diamonds families get so excited about ice cream. And that was really special for me to be able to build that relationship between them and THON.
Yeah.
And of course, building relationships with press and media outlets and being able to sort of explain THON to them in a new way and have people really spread the word of THON to their hometowns. And of course, in my job now, I get to build so many different relationships with so many different members of the THON community, from donors to organization members to committee members. There's so many different people that I get to interact with, and no matter how big or small the interaction is, everyone here is an incredible person, and I have gotten to meet so many people who are so dedicated to our cause, and that has definitely been my favorite part.
Oh, I'm sure. And as executive director, can you give us a day in the life of Megan Renaut? What do you do? Because I don't think people know how much you're really doing.
So I think every day is really different. It's a new type of roller coaster every day. But what I usually do is a lot of meetings during the day. I work to maintain THON's relationship with 4 Diamonds and our relationship with the university. So I have a lot of contacts that I work with that kind of work on an 8 to 5 schedule. And so I'm able to meet with them during the day, whether via phone call or in person, just to talk about what's going on in THON, any challenges we might be having, getting some advice, which is really helpful for THON and also, good for our relationship as well. So the other part of my job is managing the 15 members of the executive committee and sort of helping to work through any challenges that they might be having. I really am just serving as a resource for anything that they need to be able to do their jobs or to push their committees to a new level. I want to be able to provide that support, and that's a big part of my job and a big part of my time, is really trying to help them in any way that I can.
What would you say is the hardest part of your job?
I would say that the hardest part of my job is probably needing to transition my mindset at really any given time, which sounds confusing, but really with the 15 different members of the executive committee, all of them are doing something differently, and their focus is on a very specific area. So it's food and beverage or media or organization members, and on a given day, I will have to be able to focus in all of those different areas and have a good understanding of what needs to happen in all of those different areas. Yeah. So I think being able to switch back and forth between all of those mindsets and perspectives has been the most challenging part, but easily one of the most rewarding.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great talking to you, and I'm really looking forward to THON weekend.
Great, thank you so much.
From the students of Penn State Meteorology, here is your Penn State Campus Weather Service forecast.
Good Good evening to everybody out there. I'm student meteorologist Hunter Williams here with your PSN weather update. Now, we've seen the very chilly temperatures through the past couple of days, even down below zero in some instances. And unfortunately, as we go overnight tonight, that bitter cold does continue, and even a little bit of light snow to add to our winter woes here as we go throughout the night tonight. And really no relief in sight. We remain very chilly through the rest of the week, unfortunately, as I'm sure most of us would like to see some warmer temperatures and even some sun right about now. But you may be asking, where is this cold weather, this cold air rather, coming from? And as we go throughout the week, you can see plenty of cold air spilling down from Canada. And look at this, as we get towards Wednesday, plenty of cold air in place across much of the Northeast, and we get no relief as we go throughout the next couple of days. And now with these cold temperatures, we're seeing some very dangerous wind chills here. And as you can see, these wind chill values valid overnight tonight at around 1 a.m. Look at these wind chills below zero for much of central Pennsylvania. So if you do have to do anything outside this evening, first I would tell you not to go outside. But if you do have to go outside, please be aware of this and just remember to bundle up. This is not something you'd want to take lightly here. I did mention the snow as well. As we go overnight tonight, look at this. We can see the snow move through it, but really getting out of here by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, and we're left with just a little bit of clouds, a little bit of cloud cover here in central Pennsylvania. Now, we're not expecting huge accumulations with this storm, minor accumulations really just on the order of a coating to around an inch here in central Pennsylvania. But once again, for tonight, we do see a little bit of light snow possible. Those minor accumulations once again dropping down to around 3 degrees. So certainly remaining very cold. That's not something you want to see. So if you do have to go outside, please bundle up, as we could see those dangerous wind chills as well as those dangerous temperatures, really. And we warm up to around 25 degrees for tomorrow. Snow possible once again before noon. Now, this is a relatively warm day compared to what we've been seeing, and I cringe calling 25 warm, but unfortunately that's been the case here through the past couple of days. And as we move towards Wednesday, a flurry is possible, but really more sun for Wednesday. But look, that temperature drops down to around 20 degrees for the high. As we go overnight Wednesday, just the bottom falls out here. We see that low of around 0 degrees, only getting up to around 11 by the time we get into Thursday, and then dropping below 0 once again Thursday night, Friday. And as we head towards the weekend, a bit of a warm-up, but once again, warm-up a very relative term here. And we do see the snow re-enter the forecast as we get towards next weekend, but those temperatures still holding strong into the low 30s. Once again, I'm student meteorologist Hunter Williams here on behalf of the Penn State Campus Weather Service, and please stay tuned for PSN as we have sports coming up here in just a few minutes.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Weston with this week's Sports Wrap-Up. The women's basketball team had a tough game against Minnesota on Saturday. Reporter Anna Petingolo has more.
The Penn State Lady Lions are back in action here at the Bryce Jordan Center as they get ready to take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers in a Big Ten conference matchup. The Lady Lions are coming off a tough loss to Michigan State last Wednesday, in which they fell 74-67. The Lady Lions are looking for their 7th win of the season. Penn State came into this game looking to avenge their loss at Minnesota at the end of January. Minnesota won the tip and had momentum for most of the game. Senior Tori Waldner had a strong game for the Lady Lions, finishing with 16 points and 8 rebounds. The Golden Gophers were able to take advantage of turnovers and free throws to keep the Lions at bay. The second half started out strong for the Nittany Lions, with an and one by Waldner giving them their first lead of the game. Penn State finished the game with 44 rebounds compared to Minnesota's 41. Junior Sierra Moore had a team-high 17 points for the Lady Lions, but it wasn't enough. Despite strong performances from Tori Waldner and Sierra Moore, the Lady Lions ultimately fell to Minnesota 85-77 and fell to 6-20 on the season. The Lady Lions next travel to Maryland as they take on the Terrapins on Monday, February 23rd. Tip is set for 7 p.m. For PSN TV, I'm Anna Petingolo.
Penn State men's basketball team lost in a close game against Maryland 76-73 on Saturday in the Bryce Jordan Center. DJ Newbill led the offense with 25 points, his 100th time to reach double digits in his career. Geno Thorpe followed with 17 points and Brandon Taylor with 11. The Lions were down by 1 with 13 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, but Maryland got ahead after 2 foul shots, sealing the win for the Terrapins. The Lions faced number 5 Wisconsin Wednesday at home. The men's hockey team fell to Michigan State 3-2 on Saturday in East Lansing. The Lions outshot the Spartans throughout the entirety of the game, totaling 42 shots against the Spartans' 29. The Lions scored their first goal in the second period during a power play, but the Spartans took the lead again 6 minutes later. Penn State's Casey Bailey made the last goal of the game, recording his 20th goal of the season. He is the first Big Ten player and 5th across the NCAA Division I to score 20 goals. The 14th-ranked men's lacrosse team lost against 7th-ranked Loyola University 8-6 in Maryland on Saturday. Penn State opened the game with a goal in the first 2 minutes, but Loyola then scored 3 unanswered goals before the end of the first quarter. Loyola continued having the upper hand, and by the third quarter, they led the game 7-2. The Lions rallied in the fourth quarter, scoring 4 goals, but were unable to get a lead on the Greyhounds. The Lions will face off against Villanova this Saturday. Penn State's softball team fell to Eastern Michigan 2-1 yesterday during the Aggie Classic final in Texas. Penn State's Marlena Laubach provided relief in the fourth inning, pitching almost a perfect game and not giving up any hits. Reina Ferroya hit a homer in the 6th inning, but it was not enough. The Nittany Lions are now 6-5 to start their 2015 season. They will travel to play a 3-game series against Mississippi State this weekend. And that's all for this week's sports. PSN News will be right back.
SNL 40 is still trending online after last night's star-studded 40th anniversary of the late-night comedy sketch show. More than 80 guest stars were featured on the 3.5-hour special, which celebrated Saturday Night Live's 4 decades on air. Preliminary figures indicate over 23 million viewers tuned in to watch, making it NBC's most watched primetime entertainment broadcast ever, excluding Super Bowls, since 2004. The 1-hour red carpet special aired beforehand was watched by more than 11 million viewers. SNL has aired live from New York since October 1975. And that does it for us at PSN News for February 16, 2015. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check us out every Monday on our YouTube channel.
And be sure to follow us on Twitter at PSN News. Have a good night.